So this podcast was a lot of fun. We sat down with Larry. He owns Outatime. It's a retro vintage toy store and arcade in downtown Upland. We kind of stumbled across it. We were doing a photo shoot out there a few weeks ago and went to check out downtown. And graphics has the Outatime from Back to the Future. He has a He-Man and Skeletor graphic in the window. So obviously that was right up our alley to
we
go check out.
We love the 80s, so it was like a perfect fit for us for sure.
Yeah, so talked to him, got to know him a little bit, and had him on the podcast just to dive in and hear a story about how, as someone that grew up during that time frame and had toys as a kid, kind of like me with my story, became an adult and a bunch of them went in a box or they got tossed or thrown out, and hear the process of him as an adult starting to collect toys again, things that were nostalgic from his childhood, and then basically outgrowing his office and the toys that he had, which I'm about to do, and opening a store and opening just a really great store where he has stuff that's new, like new issued stuff from vintage 80s type stuff, to original stuff, to an arcade with the vintage retro games from Miss Pac-Man and Galaga and Star Wars and all of those. So just really cool shop. It was really exciting to hear that he has 9-year-old kids, 13-year-old kids, boys and girls coming in, playing the arcade, obsessing over the arcades because they saw Stranger Things, and buying VHS tapes of Back to the Future and Ninja Turtles. So just really good guy. 10% of all their sales he actually gives back to helping kids in foster care, and they especially focus on those kids that are transitioning out of foster care that weren't permanently placed in a home. So amazing stuff that they do there. We're actually going to have them back on the podcast and talk what they do for foster kids. But this was just fantastic, talking about toys and all the things from my memory and from our memory, our childhood that we played with or knew, and talking about what he's doing with them in the shop. So hope you enjoy the podcast.
This is the Create Podcast.
How long does it take you to get to your shop?
Half hour.
Half hour. That's not bad.
Yeah. And 10 miles is going through the mountain area, so it's kind of like a detox transition back home, out of the city, out of the 80s and back into the mountain, back to bears and camouflage and mountain life.
So two different worlds you live in.
It really is. Yeah. It's weird.
That's awesome. So when did you first open your shop?
We opened the shop mid-November.
Okay.
So was it 8 months? 8 months ago?
Yeah.
That's cool.
And you were around the corner at first, right? From where you are now?
Yeah, the original location 8 months ago. We got the lease early October. Took us about 5 weeks to really clean the place up. It's an abandoned mini mall.
Yeah.
And it was the kitchen of a Mexican restaurant. So
how funny.
They just gave us the keys and, good luck with the grease and the cockroaches. And
That's fun.
So we had to clean and paint and build all those games and order all of our toys. So it took a while, but then we got opened mid-November. And we were in business there a few months until the shutdown happened 2 days after our roof just had a massive leak. So,
wow.
So because of the leak, that got us out of the lease, and good timing with the shutdown, so we were able to move to the new shop.
Oh, okay.
I love your new location.
Yeah,
it's
us
great.
too. I'm almost out of stock.
I have to say, you have the best curated collection of 80s stuff I have ever seen. Like, as you can see, Mark is a little bit of a 80s
I'm all over the place. 80s,
nerd.
90s,
so we've been in a lot of shops over the years, and you by far have the best
thanks.
Curated collection.
Well,
I love it.
Even just like, because we had a photo shoot down there.
Right.
We were like, let's go downtown Upland and check it out. I'd heard about that rad coffee place, so wanted to go check that out. And then we parked right in front of your store, so I drove by. I'm like, what in the world is that? So excited because you have the Outatime and the graphics on the outside window. And
I had seen it pop up online too, which means
really?
you have good SEO
and that's
happening.
good because some people say we can't find you on Yelp or Google. On the business side of things, I have no idea how to get that stuff going, but as an excuse, how'd you find an arcade in the 80s? You didn't Google it, man. Right. It's just word of mouth and hanging out downtown. You know where the arcade is. So. So I'm just not trying to sign up for all that stuff. We're not big. We have our Instagram to show you what's new in the store, but we're not big social media, online people. So,
you are showing up. I Googled Downtown Upland as we were kind of like rolling in, Mark was like, figure out what's cool in Downtown Upland, and you popped up. So.
Oh, cool. And we're still working on that storefront, but the Outatime sign is catching some eyeballs. Yeah. And it's just like your office here. It's an extension of my office at home. And just growing up in the 80s, thinking of every movie, every cartoon, every band, every toy we could think of. And my office already has that. So we just had to get more of it for the shop.
Yeah.
But yeah, just rack your brain. And we went down checklists to make sure we didn't miss anything. Top movies of 81, top movies of 82, and just until we were done.
Yeah.
And whatever we could find for a prop or a poster or a toy to sell.
Yeah.
And luckily, they're just making a lot of that stuff right now. So we're able to order. Our next shipment has a Mr. Miyagi Chia Pet. So I can still get brand new Karate Kid stuff.
That's like a lot of stuff coming together.
Yeah.
Chia Pet and Mr. Miyagi.
That's awesome. So what did it for you? For me, like when I realized for me a lot of it has to do with nostalgia and memories. I'm super nostalgic.
Sure.
So I love to collect stuff. And when I look back, like what were some of the things for me that kind of did it? I think Star Wars was the first thing. Like I remember my friend got Return of the Jedi. So I was born in 75. The original one came out in 77. So I was a little too young for the first two. But I remember Return of the Jedi coming out. And then my friend got it like on VHS. And we like everyone in the neighborhood went to his house and watched it. And then and I, even back before I can remember, for whatever reason, my parents started buying me the action figures, like some of those up there, the original ones I had from when I was 4 or 5 years old. So I think that I can look back, that's where it started for me. And then movies and all of that. So like for you to be at the point like opening a shop and obviously it's a huge part of your life. What were some of the things like when you were a kid that got it started for you?
What year were you born?
80.
Okay.
So I turned 40 Tuesday.
Oh, happy birthday.
Thanks.
Happy birthday.
Thanks. So, the 80s was a weird, an awesome time where pop culture just exploded.
Yeah.
It was technology and marketing and pop culture. So if you had, and you didn't have this in the 60s or 70s, maybe you had a lunchbox back then. But for us, if there was a, excuse me, it's early. If there was a property, you had a cartoon and an action figure line, and toys were in the cereal boxes, and shirts and lunch boxes, the video game on Atari and on Nintendo, and then a movie would get made. Or if it was a movie, then the cartoon would get made, and the toys and the video games. So it was just an explosion of this stuff, and every year or two you had something new. So we had to have everything He-Man, and then all of a sudden, move that aside, we need everything Thundercats.
Right.
But then like 6 months later, Ghostbusters came out. Got to have all of that.
Yeah.
And then the world was just taken by Ninja Turtles. That took over. No other toy mattered anymore. It was Turtles. Yeah. That was my first concert. Was Ninja Turtles
that
at the
is amazing.
Universal Amphitheater.
Really?
That
was huge.
I have
13.
5 younger brothers, so it was like a lot of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Yeah, my brother that's just younger than me was born in 1980.
Okay.
And then down to the youngest one was born in 92. So it was just like a steady stream of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
And we had just the hit movies. I mean, everyone likes Breakfast Club and Ferris Bueller and Goonies and Gremlins. And it was just a really, really good time for art and creativity and merchandising. And we got suckered into that stuff. And then... so that was life, from 8 till I was like 12 or 13. And then, you get into your teenage years and it's punk rock and skateboards. But, so then when I was like 32 and all my stuff was gone, I had no more, all my toys were gone. My video games were gone. I was a grown man.
Yeah.
But I got a Ninja Turtle for my desk. And I was like, well, if I'm going to have a Ninja Turtle for my desk, I remember He-Man. So I ordered a He-Man.
He-Man.
And I was like, Stay Puft, that was a cool toy. So I got that for my for my desk. I was like, that's it.
Well, and did you just have a Ninja Turtle?
At 32, yeah. It was a Raphael, a He-Man, and a Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. And then, I don't know, 3 years later... 5,000 toys, like no joke. If I would go home and count them, there was no more room. Yeah. And I was having to sell off some stuff to make room and move a wall and reshape our laundry room so I could expand the toys. And I was like, this is ridiculous.
So like, I might have a problem.
Yeah, I'm away because then I needed everything. I needed the whole line of He-Man, and then the He-Man reboot, and then getting into those like interesting figures like Karate Kid and A-Team and Knight Rider. They had toys too, so I started picking up stuff. So it got crazy, and I was moving up in a tech company, and I live in the mountains in a cheap house that I renovated. So I kept moving up in this tech company, which is just pays a lot. So I'm just dumping it into toys. It's just a ridiculous decade of life where I was getting paid too much and buying toys.
Yeah.
But it's a kind of a great investment.
It is. There's no loss. Some of them are going to go up in value when I sell
crazy.
them. And at least I tell my wife, at least I can get half back.
That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
I can always get half my money back. If I was into any other hobby, you lose money.
Right.
If I was into off-roading, my vehicles would depreciate.
Right.
If I just went on cruises all the time, that money's gone.
Right.
Yeah.
Whatever you're into.
Or even like building like trains, or you know, you see people with like the big train sets, or it is kind of unique in that it's a investable.
You can resell this stuff.
Hobby.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And so the store came out for a few reasons. One is, just trying to get out of that day job. But to be around this stuff and to see what's new and order it and hold it in my hands, but then let it go like for a small profit so that I can still be in the mix without my house looking like a toy hoarder's nightmare.
Yeah.
So I still get to be in the mix and see it and handle it and look at it for a while and put it on the wall like it would be at home. And then a few weeks later it might sell and I can enjoy it just for a short time.
To like have the moment with it. One of my good friends has a My Little Pony room. And the first time I went over to her house...
Like there's nothing else in the room.
There's nothing else in the room. Yeah, it's like... It's a lot of My Little Pony.
That's great.
But yeah, just some of them, a lot of them that she got as a kid.
Yeah.
That her grandma gave to her and her sister. And it was just, like you said, it was a completely, I think, unique time of history with like the convergence of like really creative, well done media that came out, and then it was like beautifully marketed. It was just like a perfect storm.
And you see it now. Now that the cartoons were toy commercials,
right?
And and the cereal, sugary cereal, you get hooked on. So, but it was awesome.
But the cartoons were great. Like I loved He-Man and She-Ra.
Sure.
It was like. I mean,
they're a little hard to watch now, but
I haven't circled back, but like as a kid, like loved it.
And and when I was collecting hard a few years ago, there was a time you could walk down the toy aisle at Target, and it was Voltron, Transformers, Ninja Turtles, Star Wars. You get Star Wars, and then you get to the end cap, and they have the retro end cap with Spirograph, Stretch Armstrong, Pound Puppies.
Oh, we love Stretch Armstrong.
So there was no difference between 2016 and the Ghostbusters movie was out. 2016 looked like 86, and as I realized, these properties are still, other stuff's come and gone, and these properties are still going. And even still, now we're in 2020, there's a Ghostbusters movie, a He-Man cartoon coming out. It's just still going strong. So I felt this is the perfect time. I don't know how long we'll be nostalgic for the 80s, but I do think it's like the 50s that it'll never go away.
I think so too.
For sure.
I could have opened a diner and put Elvis pictures on the wall and it would do well.
Right.
So I'm betting on the fact that it's like the 50s and it'll always be cool.
Well, and I think you're right, because we have 6 kids ranging in age from 21 to 10, and our kids totally love the 80s.
Yeah.
Like, we have a kid that, like, is totally into, like, finding T-shirts from the 80s. And so I think that, like, our generation has kind of, like, passed that love onto their kids.
So it did start out with nostalgia for guys our age. But then Stranger Things hit, and all the kids were just super into looking at the clothes, the arcade, the toys. So even yesterday, I had a bunch of 12, 13-year-old girls come in, and they went nuts for the place, and they went home with a strawberry shortcake pop. And I said, "You know what this is?" They're like, "Heck yeah!"
They're like, "We've seen Stranger Things."
Yeah. So
that's amazing.
It's definitely been passed on. I have a 9-year-old that comes in and spends a ton of money. He bought Teddy Ruxpin. He
Oh,
came
man,
back
I
for
love Teddy
Grubby.
Ruxpin.
He only wants Ninja Turtles if they're sealed on the card. That's what he saves his allowance for.
Really?
That
That's-
is amazing.
That gives me hope for humanity. What's amazing because, like, well, you were talking about the 80s, and was it Back to the Future too, when there was an 80s cafe?
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Which at the time was like, now it's like,
That's
it's
funny.
realistic,
Yeah.
you know?
It's funny that you would try
actually-
to capture the 80s in a cafe.
Yeah.
We wanted to
that
kind of
people haven't done
decorate
that.
after that.
Yeah, that hasn't hit yet. That's got to be coming,
That
right?
would be, I hope so.
The 80s cafe.
If we
For
had
sure.
more room, we were going to get a booth and have the booth and table look like Cafe 80s.
Yeah.
That's
But
awesome.
yeah, we tried. That's what we have a max headroom on the wall just to kind of
Yeah.
steal from that.
Yeah. Yeah, because when Marty, there's a Max Headroom, right, playing, like,
Yep.
he's like,
Yep.
welcome to the 80s cafe. Yeah. So cool.
That's
But it's crazy, like, talk about the nostalgia, and looking back at just the marketing was just brilliant at the time. And, like, for us in our 40s, it's stuck with us all these years to where it was, like you said, on our cereal box. It was Saturday morning cartoons. It was
Yeah.
our toys. And
Yeah.
I had the best childhood. He lived on a cul-de-sac, and there was like 6 guys, all literally in the same grade, same age. And all of us were into, like, I was Star Wars. My friend John next door was He-Man, so he had everything He-Man. And then the other side, Brian and Keith had everything G.I. Joe. Like, they had the aircraft carrier, everything. And so we would just, like, take turns going to each other's house.
"Let's
and, like,
play G.I.
we're doing
Joe
He-Man
today."
today, and we'd go over there. So
It was a neighborhood co-op. Like, you collect all
It was.
these, you collect all
Yeah.
these, and then we'll have everything if we join
Unintentionally.
forces.
yeah, unintentionally, that's what happened. And then meeting up Saturday morning to watch cartoons. And
Yeah.
it's just such a...
I don't know why getting up for school was so hard, but on a Saturday morning, your internal
ready.
clock wakes up at like 6, ready for cartoons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so interesting. Well, and it's interesting to think too, with like the age that our kids are, that they've like gone through, like Disney Channel, Nick Jr., all
Yeah.
of these shows, but not really with anything tangible to show for it.
Yeah,
That it's kind of
yeah.
like that. The 80s were such a unique
Yeah.
time with that, like you said, that the shows were really commercials for the toys, but like that stopped at some point because like our
That's
kids
true.
didn't have that experience at all, where they were never like, I really need a roly poly oly toy. Like that
Sure.
just didn't happen.
And we thought about that because it is unique to the 80s and early 90s. So at the time we wanted to open, and I'm pitching my idea to my wife, that because we've lost what made Chuck E. Cheese great, they took out the bands and all that stuff.
Right.
All the family fun centers are closed. Scandy is gone. Bullwinkle's became Boomers, and now Boomers is gone. There's no family fun centers. The Toys R Us is gone.
Yeah.
You just have one toy aisle at Target, and it's wrecked, and the toys haven't been refreshed in months right now because of the shutdown. But even before
It's
that,
not great
it wasn't
usually.
great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so she's like, well, maybe take that as a sign that nobody goes to Chuck E. Cheese anymore or buys toys. I'm like, nah, I'm gonna keep it. I'm gonna keep it alive.
No,
So-
it's great.
So yeah, we were losing. We lost KB. We lost Toys R Us. We lost the family fun zones. So we're trying to bring it back.
Yeah.
Yeah. If this succeeds, we would like a bigger place with pizza as well or something. But
Yeah,
we'll see
that'd
how
be
it goes.
super cool.
Yeah. Well, the fact that you're getting people like me, who that was my childhood, but the fact that you have 9-year-old boys buying Ninja Turtle stuff
Yes.
and girls coming in playing
Yeah.
that, like, that's
Yeah.
a big deal.
That's the longevity, I hope, because guys like us have expendable income right now in our late 30s, early 40s.
Mm-hmm.
But that'll dry up. By the time we're 50, we'll probably move on to talking about our barbecues or something. Get into something more grown up.
Yeah.
But it is the kids that I hope latch onto this stuff and see how long this goes.
Yeah. I
For
think
sure.
the arcade is genius too, to have that part of it.
Yeah, I couldn't decide.
Yeah.
So we know where there's other arcades. We wanted it to be a one-stop shop. If we were going to run around on our day off, we know where we would go vintage toy shopping, and then we know where the arcade is, and we know where the comic shop is. So I just wanted to throw it all in one shop, so you could come in, get a book, get a toy, and play for 30 minutes or something, and then head out. And you don't have to leave Downtown Upland. You don't have to leave my shop.
Yeah.
You could do it all.
Yeah.
It's cool.
Yeah. The those arcade games, when I was at your shop, we were talking about them. They're obviously the newer ones, but of the older
Yes.
games.
Yeah.
You said before you had to put those together when you bought them.
Arcade 1-Up is the brand. Originally, we wanted vintage cabinets. You know, they're bigger, they're authentic.
Yeah.
But I've been fixing ATMs for 10 years, and I see how hard it is to get parts for some of my early model machines. So looking into that, knowing how many retro arcades are out there now, and how hard it is to get those motherboards and those monitors, the competition's already up there for looking for vintage parts.
Well, and
So
especially there's a bunch of bars that are kind
Yeah.
of doing the like retro
Right,
game vibe
right.
too, that are probably sucking up a ton of them
that's
as
true.
well.
Yeah. And so the competition for vintage parts, the fact that these retro arcades are in college towns or in bars, so we thought we'll be in downtown Upland, sandwiched between 2 high schools and 2 junior highs. So these cabinets will be the perfect size because they're 3/4 size cabinets. Good size for these kids. They don't want to go hang out in the college town. They can't get into the bar that has the vintage cabinets. So they can come here, and it'll be the right size. And I can get every single cabinet they've put out for the price of 2 vintage cabinets.
Yeah.
And I can fix them super easy
Yeah.
with their own parts or some third-party aftermarket parts.
It's kind of brilliant.
So that was the compromise we made.
Yeah.
And it's worked. And until a basketball team came in last weekend, it's worked out great.
They're like on their knees.
Last Saturday, it looked funny looking at the arcade, and everyone's 2 feet taller than
They're
the
like
game.
shoulders above
They were leaning
the
on
game.
the arcade. But until that team came in, they've done great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are the most popular games with kids?
Pac-Man and Star Wars, which I don't. Star Wars is such a simple looking game. Kids love it, and Galaga.
Yeah.
So it is
Yeah.
the real retro. They like Galaga, Pac-Man, and Star Wars. Absolutely. They come in, they run in and go to Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat.
Yes.
And after 2 rounds, they drift over to one of those games and they stay there the rest of the hour.
Well, because those are the games that will like suck you in.
They still have 40 years later. It still
Wow.
gets the kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what you really need for the ladies is skee ball.
Skee ball.
If I had room for skee ball, I would.
Your next place
Yeah.
needs some skee ball.
Yeah.
That was always, because I grew up with 5 brothers and I wasn't super interested in video games and, like getting a turn
Yeah.
just wasn't happening. So, like, skee ball
Skee ball. It is fun.
was where it's
Yeah.
at.
Takes up a lot of space, but
It does
Right.
take a
Yeah.
lot of
You need that
space.
long run and
Yeah. That's your, like,
a nice concrete wall behind it for
Yeah.
the bad
Yeah.
pitches.
it's your nod to Chuck E. Cheese.
That's
So-
where I played it. Yeah.
yeah. Oh, I loved going to Chuck E. Cheese, man, when I was a kid. I only went a handful of times, but it was like
Yeah.
Like,
it was
Yeah.
the
the
best.
best day of my life every time I went.
And they like I said, they took out the animatronic band. They beefed up the salad bar over the pizza, and now with the shutdown, they declared bankruptcy.
I
Yeah.
was just going to say, like, there is nowhere that is more aggressively germ problem than Chuck E. Cheese.
Yeah. I remember
The ball pits.
Right, that's got to be toxic.
The, like, big maze thing that
climbing through those
hasn't been
mazes.
cleaned
But they
ever.
cleaned every single ball every
Oh,
night.
you bet they did. You
Like
bet they
never.
did.
Those balls probably never got cleaned.
I had to
Even-
climb up in that maze thing to rescue my kid's 3-year-old who was like having a panic attack up there.
Yeah.
And that was the worst smell I've ever
Yeah.
smelled, trying to get in and out of that maze.
Like I said, it's probably been cleaned never.
Right.
Yeah.
I remember there was one, I don't know if it was on University. I remember going on as a kid and they had a huge ball pit and they had like almost like an indoor zip line that went around. Did you ever go to that one?
Yeah.
Like it went around
Yeah,
the
yeah.
ball pit.
Yes.
I only went there once, but that was amazing.
Well, and then I don't remember them having this one when we were kids, but when our kids were younger, they added like the ticket vortex
Oh, yeah, and you could
thing,
catch
and you
all
just
of
like
yeah,
try to
yeah.
grab every ticket. I'm like, this is also a germ nightmare. But, yeah.
So is Ninja Turtles like your thing?
Yeah, even at home, we've been so busy at the new shop, but also waiting for the economy to restart so we can get our shipments of toys and comics, that I'm running out of toys. So I've been bringing stuff from home,
Yeah.
but I'm not touching the turtles.
Yeah.
And so while there was a healthy collection of each thing I'm into, when this is all over, it's going to be a Ninja Turtle office because I'm not selling one thing
Yeah.
from that. Yeah.
It's just so
Absolutely.
great. Yeah, our kid that is super into the 80s, who's turning 18, this year, like, loved the Ninja Turtles, like, as a kid.
Yeah.
Like, loved, and he was, like, way, way past, you know, like, in terms of most other kids being into Ninja Turtles, but he like, loved the Ninja Turtles so much.
And did the Ninja Turtles start as a comic book first?
It was a comic book in '84, and then it blew up. They had multiple printings of that first issue, and then more, and then the cartoon.
I was gonna say it was a Saturday morning cartoon, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And the cartoon came around, I want to say '87, '88, as a way to push the toys because they got to deal with Playmates.
Yeah.
So yeah, the comic books were doing so well, and the little individual merchandise they could make, like buttons and patches and little lead miniature figures for role-playing games. But it was doing so well. It got them a toy line and a cartoon, and then the movies, and it's changed everything.
Yeah, and they just stayed forever. So my younger brothers are your age, and it's like I went through different phases, and they were like, I think they were into Ghostbusters a little bit, but once they got into Ninja Turtles, like that was it.
It really did. I mean, like I said, we had Ghostbusters and Thundercats, but it all got pushed aside. I don't know what it was, but it was a huge deal.
Yeah.
So with the toys like that Teen Wolf thing that I bought, like what's the story behind, like, is there one company putting most of that stuff out? Two
mostly. So we have to be grateful for Funko and Super 7 and NECA. So there's three companies that are really going hard on these licenses and bringing out retro stuff that never got a toy. Like, there was never a Teen Wolf action figure, and now there is.
Yeah.
Or it had a toy line, but a long time ago, so they bring it back in their version. There's three main brands that we try to carry. There's also Diamond Select, but we get what we can get, and it really is Funko. They rule the world on this stuff. Super 7 does a great job, and NECA as well.
Yeah. What do you think, like, thanks again for the Back to the Future pack, like,
Sure.
with this stuff, because, like, what year was this from?
80, well, that's the sequel, so what, 87?
Yeah, 89.
89?
Yeah, it says 89 here. Like this, I have a bunch of those, obviously, different from sports cards to movies. Like, so this stuff's just been sitting around in different places for all these years.
Yeah,
like, what's the story behind the bulk of them, do you think?
Why they didn't sell, and because you can still get them by the box.
Yeah.
I can only assume they didn't sell because there's just huge unopened boxes of trading cards from the 80s, and they're everywhere.
They're everywhere, yeah.
And they got this big marker stripe across them, which indicates it was returned to the manufacturer for credit from some retail store. Yeah.
Across the box, yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
So it's just been sitting in a warehouse this whole time.
So Topps just cranked out cards, and some didn't sell, and they got shipped back, and somehow they survived, and there's a huge market to you can get your hands on a box of any card pretty easily these days.
Yeah.
And are they being purchased through Topps? The original purchase?
No, you got to just find whoever got their hands on this
Somebody
stuff.
has
bought
it
it from somewhere. Storages, warehouses, I don't know how.
That's cool.
But I do know some really good sellers on Instagram. It beats eBay and all that stuff. So just a guy I know had a whole box of Back to the Future cards, so he gave me a good deal.
That's cool.
Yeah,
that will fit right in with the cards up there.
As much as we don't go on social media because it's just a crazy place to be, Instagram does have a great toy community. That I made a page to share my collection because I had a personal page way back when, but I made a second page just to talk about toys, and that grew into what it is now.
That's the store page now?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, converted it to the store page.
How long have you had that page, do you think?
4 years?
Yeah.
So 4 years, like 6,000 followers. Not much for an individual, but, great following to convert it to a store page and have 6,000 followers to see what we're getting in stock. That was super helpful.
Yeah, that's great.
And to communicate with other guys that are just buying, selling, trading. It's fun.
Yeah. Are you selling much online?
I'll put stuff online. If it's been sitting for a couple months, I'll offer it on. I hate shipping. So if it's been sitting for a while, I'll put it online. Yeah. Or bundle it together with some other stuff from the same line, put it on Instagram, and then I'll ship it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have local people who see things on your Instagram and
Oh
come
yeah,
in?
yeah, especially comics. If we say certain issues have arrived, they'll come in and pick it up.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, I never got into comics, but that community is the people that are into it are.
You have to have every issue.
Die hard,
and you have
yeah.
to have the variant covers. So yeah, if you're into it,
Yeah.
That's who buys it.
It sucks you in.
Completionists.
Yeah. I know. I tried not. My tendency is to be that way. Like I want to get into something, and I'm like, okay, now I need to get everything.
Right.
Which is why I didn't buy a single pop for like the longest time because I'm like,
You're
if
gonna get hooked.
I get into that, like I'm gonna have to buy a house just for those because everything exists in one of those now. It's insane.
My wife has an office at home, and she got into pops. And then downstairs was a guest room, but it's much bigger than her office. And we're in the process of flipping them, so she gets the big room because you got to go through the stack of pops that she has because she has no way to display all these pops.
Yeah.
And so it is addicting. Yeah.
Well, and like I have never have any intention of selling anything that I get, so like I open everything, which I'm sure some people would cringe with. Like, although I did. Some of that Teen Wolf, I feel like the packaging is so great. I feel like
card,
I can't open.
Card.
Yeah, I can't open it because the packaging.
Yeah, but the
is
pops
amazing.
aren't like particularly great packaging.
I take those out. Yeah,
Yeah.
I only have a few. Like I have to really like that.
rein
But
it in.
I intentionally tell myself like I can't complete anything because I'll just go crazy. So I try to be strict.
Yeah, I was trying to complete stuff and get into every collectible you could find, and that takes up the most room. So I did have to sell off pops and little mystery minis and Legos and things like that and get it just down to the action figures and the vehicles, or I'm not going to have enough room for everything I want to have.
Yeah.
So there is a lot of stuff.
Got to prioritize.
But yeah, pops are great, and you never know which pops are going to end up at a thrift store and which ones are going to be $1,000.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
because they've been vaulted. It's such a weird world.
Well, and it was so crazy. One of our kids was like super into pops, so there was a period of time where we were like canvassing pop for the different stores, and some of them would have like a huge wall like full of like floor to ceiling shelves, and the shelves were like
deep
and not organized in any capacity, so you have to get like
you got to move all the
what
boxes.
you want could be 5 deep.
Yeah.
It's like, well, I know what I'm doing for the next
500,
hour.
yeah.
Yep. I've been there with my wife going through those shelves
Yeah.
and then being the camel that carries all the pops out of the store for her.
Yeah.
And
I know.
that's my job.
Every time we did that, I like ended up with a migraine. It was like so stressful.
Overstimulated.
I was just like, can we just organize it? Like, can we just organize it, guys? Like, it made me nuts.
The thing I started to a couple years back, thinking that I was gonna get everything, was Garbage Pail Kids.
Oh yeah.
Because I was in 4th grade, I think, when I was like the perfect age when they came out.
And they're so your personality because they're like snarky.
We were
and
obsessed. I was in 4th grade or 5th grade when I think it came out 4th grade, but 5th grade is when they really hit. I think the 2nd or 3rd series was out. And I was actually, me and my friends like started a club, and we like put all our cards together. Like every day at recess, it was just trading cards. Like we would barely get like 5 feet out the door. We didn't even make it to the playground.
Start trading doubles.
and then negotiations had begun.
Like most of that year was just obsessed. And then my friends and I started a club, and we put all of them together, and we would take turns like who got to keep them at their house. And then when our club broke up, we like had a meeting, and we're all fighting over which ones we put in. But like that Atom Bombers one, that one was from that club. Right over there.
Oh, there he is.
Yeah. So
cool.
I have like
Really?
I probably have 10 or 12 from the first series, and
was
all from when I collected back then that I kept.
Was he in the little plastic carrier back then? Or
No.
it was just the card.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he got.
I was gonna say that would be an intense level of commitment for 5th graders.
Right.
No,
right.
I wish, because it would be worth a lot of money if it was a 10.
Yeah.
I think it's only worth like $20 or $30, but I think at one point like they were going for $1,000, like if they were a 10. Yeah.
Whoa.
But a couple years back, when I started like collecting toys again, because a lot of this stuff was just in boxes like for years and years, and then I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago, I got an office. I'm like, I'm gonna put some of that stuff in my office and similar to you. So I started putting up toys, and then it just started buying more. But Garbage Pail Kids was one. I pulled out all my old Garbage Pail Kids, and that's when he got put in that case. And then I go online like, oh, they actually made more, and they're coming out now, and
Yeah,
so I had this
still going.
thought where I was going
Still
to
going.
get all of them, and I had to walk away because.
Yeah. It's
But
good.
I bought a couple series.
Your
They're up there.
ability to walk away is
That's
is
tough.
good.
Yeah.
That's
it's
tough,
hard.
man. I mean, just toy rooms become toy basements.
Yeah.
And then it all just gets boxed and stacked, and you can't part with it. So having rules on a collection is a really hard thing in
Yeah.
what we do, for sure.
Yeah, you do a good job of like whatever will fit on your shelves now.
Yeah.
That you're not like stacking.
Well, I intentionally try to like gravitate towards stuff that's smaller too,
Mhm.
just because I know I'm going to be able to display it. There's some stuff that's really cool that's just bigger, but
Yeah.
this doesn't make sense. So have you seen obviously you've seen the new Ghostbusters trailer?
The trailer? Oh, yeah.
What do you
Oh
think?
my
Yeah.
gosh.
Based on the trailer, I think it's going to be a huge deal.
Yeah.
So
And the
excited.
toy previews of what's coming out.
I haven't looked up
Oh,
any of
I
those.
haven't seen
Oh, really?
Do
Yeah.
they have what's the car? The Ecto,
Ecto 1,
one
yeah.
with like that opens and it has, that's
Yeah.
going to be awesome.
Yeah, the kids, the
gunner
kids are going to
seat.
get
The
everything
gunner seat, yeah.
that we got. An Ecto 1, a Proton Pack that they can wear. You know, all the same stuff that we got back in 87-ish.
That is awesome. When is
Yeah.
it set to come out? It's not
got
this
moved.
summer.
It was supposed to be this month, wasn't it? June?
It's supposed to be July-ish,
July,
but now I
yeah.
think it's like March or May next year. So
Yeah.
it definitely got delayed. Some toys have already come out.
Yeah.
They re-released the old Kenner figures, just like the same toys we got, same package we got
Yeah.
30-something years ago. So those are out. And then there's a line that looks like the original movie guys. I have that order in, so we should be getting those next month.
That's exciting.
But I think all the stuff that's directly tied into the movie, they're going to hold that back
Yeah.
until next year. But it does look great.
It does, yeah,
Mhm.
look great.
The
And it
trailer, the
has
toys.
what's the kid from Stranger Things? Finn
Yeah, that kid, Finn Wolfhard.
Wolfhard. I
He's
was
in
trying to say
everything.
Lockhart and I knew that wasn't right. Yeah. That kid is like working.
I hope he has a real appreciation for all. They're throwing him in
Yeah.
everything 80s.
Yeah.
Stranger Things and It, and now
He's
Ghostbusters.
like in somebody's music video too.
He was in a Weezer video.
Yeah, in a Weezer
Yeah.
video. That's
Oh,
what
and
it
he was
yeah.
also in that video for Ninja Sex Party.
Oh,
Is
yeah,
that-
yeah.
Have you heard of
Yeah.
them?
No.
Okay.
It's- Our one of our kids
19-year-old
was super into them. We actually took him to their concert. So it was like these two like comic book like video game guys. I think the lead singer like ran a video game or a
One of them has
podcast
a
or something.
PhD. Like
And they started this band called Ninja Sex Party, and they like dress up like characters. It's kind of
Yeah.
like a rock band with Chuck E. Cheese and like
okay, it's
Rocky
amazing
Horror
though.
Picture Show.
Like
Okay.
Like,
we are not portraying it very well. It's awesome.
It's probably hard to describe.
It's
It's
hard
hard
to
to
describe.
describe.
There's a lot to unpack. There's a lot going on. But it is like if you're like an 80s person, it's great. You should look it up. But
All right.
he's totally in one of their videos.
he's in one of their videos.
That's
Yeah.
cool.
But yeah,
What was the name of that
Ninja's.
song?
I think it's called like Danny Boy because the lead singer's name
Oh,
is
yeah.
Danny,
So
and
the-
he plays like young Danny.
Because the lead singer was
Oh, I
like
get
a
it.
nerd when he was younger, and so
You should
the-
look it up.
yeah.
It's
All
great.
right.
it's a
We're not
hilarious
doing
video.
it. We are not describing it well, and they have a weird name that's kind of
Ninja
off-putting.
Sex Party.
Helps
Yeah.
you find it though.
But you should look it up. It's great.
Yeah, we were still in North Carolina, and our son Ethan was just way into them, and they were on tour, and which I don't even think they're together anymore.
They're
tour.
definitely not touring currently. Yeah.
So the only place I had tickets was Minneapolis, so we flew to Minneapolis,
What?
went and saw them, and it was just so cool.
Yeah.
And then while we were there, we went to Paisley Park Prince's compound. Like you can go and tour that,
Really?
which was really really cool. Yeah, it's like where he lived. He had
Whoa.
it was like 3 or 4 music studios in there and a
Whoa.
sound
Like
stage.
secret tunnels where he
Secret-
was
yeah.
like watching people
Oh my
record.
God.
and
Crazy,
stuff.
crazy, yeah.
Yeah. It was cool.
Yeah,
Like
but-
Graceland for Prince.
Mm-hmm.
It-
Okay.
Exactly. It is.
Yeah.
Yes. Graceland.
Paisley
for
Park,
Prince,
yeah. A ton of his memorabilia. We were walking around and like they'll have his outfits in glass
Yeah.
cages.
Little velvet
Yeah,
outfits.
and he was only like 5'1".
Yeah.
And the tour guide, I didn't know he was that short. And I asked the tour guide, at first when I looked at him, I'm like, oh, they made like 3/4 scale, like, you know,
like a
outfits.
reproduction.
Because
Yeah.
his shoes are like this big. And I asked her, I'm like, are these replicas? She's like, no, he really wore those. I'm like, how tall was he? She's like, he was like 5'1".
Wow.
crazy.
Wow.
Just tiny, but like your video game cabinet is basically what it looked like.
It would
Yeah.
look great
It
if
was.
Prince could have come play these games. It
It
would look
would've.
great.
in one of his
To
purple
scale.
velvet
Yeah.
suits that he wore. Yeah.
So what are some of the other toy, like you talked about the Ghostbusters new ones coming out, any other, like Mr. Miyagi, Karate Kid, any other new stuff that's coming down the pipe?
Yeah, it's tough. A lot of stuff, because of the shutdown and the time frame we're talking in here, a lot of stuff has been delayed. And stuff that was supposed to come out June, July now says sometime 2021. That's
Which nobody wants to see
broad of a
that,
window
yeah.
as they can give us.
Yeah.
But yeah, there is everything you can think of. Super 7 has a line called Ultimates, which is really, really nice, detailed figures that are about $50 a piece.
Oh, that's cool.
They have 3 waves of Thundercats coming out. So really high-end collectible Thundercats figures. They already do He-Man, but I don't think there's anything coming out. There's a whole new line of He-Man coming out from Mattel this summer. They have 2 He-Man cartoons coming out, so there's a toy line to support that.
That's cool.
And I've already seen some pictures online of how the toys look.
We totally had like what was it? Grayskull? Was that
Yeah.
the name of
Castle
the
Grayskull,
Castle
yeah.
Grayskull? We totally had like the big, and it like opened.
Yeah.
And, sorry, I'm hitting your mic.
Yeah, Johnny had
but,
that
yeah,
in my
it
neighborhood.
He was the designated
He
He-Man
was He-Man.
collector.
Had everything.
So yeah, He-Man, Thundercats, always Ninja Turtles. It never stops. NECA has Turtles. Super 7 has Turtles, again in the Ultimates line. Reaction, which is the 3.75-inch figures like your Teen Wolf and your Star Wars. They have a whole line of Ninja Turtles for that. Some have come out, some are delayed. But Ninja Turtles in Star Wars size.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
that's
Thundercats and He-Man. The whole run. I mean, all these major titles you can think of.
Are they remaking Strawberry Shortcake stuff?
Not really.
Yeah.
When we first opened, our first order through our vendor was kind of their back stock leftovers.
Yeah.
So we got some 2016 Strawberry Shortcake stuff.
Oh, how funny.
But it sold great. It's all gone.
You have great strawberry.
It's all
You have
gone.
like by far the best Strawberry Shortcake stuff I've ever seen.
When I thought we were done and I had decorated the shop and filled it with toys, my wife said, "You forgot about girls.
Yeah.
You have nothing." So I was like,
Yeah.
"Oh, we got to get some She-Ra. We got to
Yeah.
get Strawberry Shortcake.
Yeah.
We got to get Rainbow Bright."
I was going to say you have good
Care
Rainbow
Bears.
Bright stuff. Gem.
So-
Do you have Gem? You
No
need some
Gem.
Gem stuff.
No, but it's on the list.
Yeah.
So we will. We do have World's Smallest Barbies coming in next week. That whole toy line, World's Smallest, they're all just really tiny
Yeah.
toys. We got a whole line of that coming in. And I think it
Cool.
covers Barbie and Care Bears.
Yeah.
So we're covering our
Oh
bases.
yeah, you have good Care Bear stuff too.
Yeah.
I noticed.
And so, as far as posters on the wall, we threw up, Madonna and Cyndi Lauper, and we got Miss Pac-Man coming for a cabinet. So we won't forget about the girls. We have My Little
You
Pony
do a
comic
great job.
books.
Yeah. That's for the boys, too.
It is. It's for the
Yeah.
bronies.
Yeah.
The bronies.
Have you seen that documentary on Netflix?
A little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, I know about it, but I'm not going to watch it.
Yeah.
we
You're
do make
You're like I need some distance.
guys
from
get
that.
the My Little Ponies, and I had a girl come in the other day, and she bought, because we have a VHS selection as well, trying to keep VHS alive.
Yeah.
She bought all my Chuck Norris movies and
Really?
my Chuck Norris action figures.
That's
That's
So
amazing.
awesome.
you can't predict who's going to buy what.
How old was she?
Late 20s, 30,
That's
maybe. Yeah. Yep, she bought it all.
She just was super into Chuck Norris.
Yep.
Yeah, I got rid of a bunch of them just because I just kept some of my favorites about VHS. I was starting to collect. I'm like,
Yeah.
I went through a phase where I'm going to get every VHS, every
Yeah,
movie
you-
on VHS that
You
know.
had an aggressive amount of VHS tapes for
Yeah,
a while,
they're just-
and they take up so much space, like
Yeah.
comparatively to a tape.
But you
or a
always
CD.
want the opposite of what you have. So we gave all our VHS to Goodwill, and we just want to stream everything.
Yeah.
Kids who grew up streaming everything, they kind of want to hold the physical copy and look at the box art.
Yeah.
And they're fascinated by a VCR. And I had one kid come in and look at the shelf of movies for a while. And then finally he said, "Are these books?" I said, "No." So I pulled one off the shelf and took it out. You had to put this in a machine to watch a movie. And but we're right across the street from a record shop.
Yeah.
So people go to Rad Coffee and get their coffee. Then they go and get records. Then they come and get VHSs. And
Yeah, you've
and-
got a good little trifecta happening.
yeah.
down there. It works together nicely.
That is amazing. He looked at them for a while and asked if they were
If
books.
they're books, he had never even seen it. That's fine. I get it.
One of our kids, I guess that they're starting to sell CDs at a lot of the like newer concerts, and so he bought
And cassettes.
Yeah.
He
Cassettes
bought
are coming back.
a CD at a show that he went to, and he like opened it up and he's taking it out, and he's like, "Mom, did you know they put the lyrics inside this
It's mostly
CD?"
why you bought it.
Yeah.
He was
It, like,
so amazed.
Blew his,
Yeah.
because he's like he's a musician, so he's super into lyrics, and so his entire life experience has been Googling the lyrics. Like he
Right.
has to go look them
Right.
up to figure out what they're saying. He's like, "Did you know they put the lyrics in here?" It was just like, I'm like,
We just had to sing it wrong until we got the tape or the cassette
Right.
and then figured out like, oh,
Right.
Yeah.
Oh,
That's
that's
what they're
what saying.
Cassettes are coming back. We pick up some main ones when we're hunting for vintage stuff. So we've thrown in Tiffany and Michael Jackson.
Yeah.
But we don't do much because of the record shop across the street. But kids are demanding more cassettes. So we're on the hunt. As soon as thrift stores open again, we usually go from Riverside to Pasadena. Just spend a day or two hunting and gathering and getting it all into our shop. So you don't have to drive, 100
Right.
miles. So as soon as those open again, we have to restock. VHS is almost depleted, and we need to beef up cassettes. And you can get a Walkman right now at Target. They have
You can?
a Walkman cassette player with
Really?
headphones, $20
That's awesome.
at Target.
I know, we totally, because Mark, do you have them up here?
What?
Your Walkman
I
collection?
have one of them, yeah.
Mark
One of them.
was collecting Walkmans for a while, and our kids the same thing. Were like, "What is that?" They like could not get from point A to point B.
Yeah, you've
Of
never seen the tech.
How
it
it
makes
worked.
sense.
Yeah, it's funny.
Yeah, like this guy's actually worth. I looked it up a couple
Oh, wow.
hundred bucks. It's
Wow.
it's the original Sony Walkman.
Yeah.
I don't think it's the first mobile. It's one of the early ones. Like this was just released in Japan.
Really?
One of the very first ones. Yeah, I got it at thrift store for.
And players of all
$1.
of this is going up. VCRs are $200+
Wow.
on eBay.
Wow.
We were throwing away VCRs, 15 years ago.
Yeah.
They're not making new VCR.
No.
VHS
That's why you gotta
players.
find it, and
Yeah.
it's gotta work, and it's gonna be expensive.
Yeah.
So kids like coming in and buying VHS and
Yeah.
cassettes. Are they wanting to watch them and listen to them, or are they collecting them?
Both, because I've had conversations like, "Why are you buying?"
Yeah, you're like,
this
"Help me
whole stack of
understand."
You're
Yeah.
15. Why are you buying all
Yeah.
these movies? They want the box art. They want to display it in their house. They want to watch that grainy tracking VHS quality. And some things, a small group of people, some things have been super edited these days. I mean, it's not
right.
just Star Wars where George Lucas keeps fixing everything.
Right.
Other movies have been edited on their DVD releases for modern times.
Oh, I hadn't
So people
even
want
thought
to
about
see
that.
the old VHS with the scene they didn't take out or the dialogue they didn't record over or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And we bring home movies from the shop to watch at home, and we watched Dick Tracy the other night, and it's just that VHS quality of picture. It's
It's just
better.
a style. It's just
Yeah.
it's a style in and of itself.
It feels
for sure.
it's I don't know if it's because we grew up on it, but it's just like a comfortable viewing quality to watch. The crystal clear stuff's too weird for me because
Yeah.
it looks hyper. It's more realistic than reality.
Right.
It's too weird.
Right.
So watching these grainy old things feels sometimes if I'm watching something new and it's crystal clear, it feels like you're showing me that you filmed some actors doing something.
Exactly.
The
Yeah.
grainy
I've had that
old
moment.
VHS feels like a movie, and I'm not picturing actors and filming locations and.
Yeah, that's such a perfect.
There's something weird
description
about
of
it.
Yeah.
I have that moment constantly where, so like our TV downstairs is a newer, it's giant TV. So I have that moment all the time where if we're watching a movie, especially if it's an older movie, I'd rather watch it in the TV upstairs. It's still, a newer TV, but it's not as clear and nice as the other one.
Yeah.
So I get a better feeling even going on that smaller one where I watch it on that bigger TV and I have the exact same feeling where like I feel like I'm watching them make this movie versus
it feels like you're
being in the movie and
you're
experiencing
on
it.
set for
Too
production.
smooth.
Yeah.
You're not being given a movie package.
Yeah.
A
Yeah.
film. Yeah, it's weird.
That's such a great.
So
point.
what are I'm super into movies too. Like with kids coming in, are there certain movies that they're gravitating towards?
No, well, we only carry the major hits, so we make sure we have Breakfast Club and Pretty in Pink and Top Gun and
Back to the Future.
Back to the Future for sure. We can't keep that in stock.
Yeah.
Yeah, we go for the big ones, and they, like I said, 15 years old, they buy them all up. Yeah, nothing
I
in
think
particular, but the hits.
I think there's an element with the music too, where this generation of kids have not really experienced like an album.
Right.
Like they've just kind of
right.
experienced music in
Sure.
piecemeal. So I think that that's part of the attraction with vinyl for them too,
Yeah.
where they're listening to like the creative process like all in one place that they don't really get.
I could do
otherwise.
a whole nother podcast on music. After the 80s ended, I was 15, got in my first punk band, and didn't get out of it until 2 years ago, and now I've opened an 80s arcade.
Yeah.
That's
So there's a
awesome.
whole 25 years in the middle of albums and touring and bands and venues.
Yeah.
That's a whole nother part of life. So all my drums and amps are put away to make room for toys again. That's just how it goes.
It's a cycle.
We'll have to
and-
have you back to talk
but-
music a separate
Yeah,
time. Cause,
but
yeah.
same thing. Back then there was albums that had to fit the album, the sound, or the story of the album. And now my wife's super into K-pop, and they just put out singles. Single, single, and then they'll bundle them all together on an EP. But there's no flow. It doesn't fit. It's just a
Yeah.
collection of singles. So it was different back then.
Not like
You
a
had an
story.
album, it had to fit, and you toured to support that album. And now it's singles, and no one can tour these days.
Yeah.
Or you just do big Coachella festivals.
Yeah.
So music totally changed too, to be bite-sized stuff, and you won't. I'm not gonna pay to go see a band. I'll only pay to
Right.
go to Coachella for the
Right.
weekend.
Right.
Well, you're missing out. And so, just like an hour ago, I said all the Chuck E. Cheese's have closed. All the venues have closed. Almost everywhere I've ever played is gone.
Wow. Sad.
The Troubadour's still around, but they're declaring bankruptcy because of the shutdown.
Are they really?
So it's toys, music, movies. Everything we had is crumbling away.
I think that our generation, and they have like a specific name for the people. There's like an age range that's called like, I'm not going to remember what it is, but it's like a micro generation kind of in between Generation X and the millennials. I
I
should
don't want to
know.
be lumped in with millennials, that's for sure.
No.
But I don't know what came before that exactly.
Generation X was before, but like I think it's like
Gen X.
75 to 83 or something. There's a name for it. We'll have to
So I
Google
know
it.
80s had yuppies, but they were already
Yeah, those
grown
weren't
up and
yeah,
working.
those weren't like
so between
the
yuppies
people
and
born
millennials.
those years. Yeah.
Okay.
Gen X.
But they talk about that's the generation that like bridged everything, that we kind of went from, we had this completely like analog
Yeah.
childhood
Yeah.
and then bridged the gap to having
To
a
digital,
digital
yeah.
adulthood. Like I
That
think
was
about
the best transition.
like when we were talking about music, like remember Napster? Like Napster was like
right.
this like it totally changed the whole game
Absolutely.
of music. That happened like right when we were all in those like very like music centric young adult
Yeah.
years.
Yeah.
It was
But-
such a great time to grow up because, like what you're saying, I got to experience getting a cassette tape of a new album and opening it and going through the lyrics, seeing and listening to the whole album, and then now I stream everything on my iPad and my phone,
Yeah.
as well. So like that sweet spot of
But
being
you,
able
and
to
you took the
experience
time
both.
to sit and put on your headphones and stare at the wall and listen to that album. And now you're probably driving or typing while you're streaming a new single and
Yeah.
you're just kind of mixing it into your crazy life.
Yeah.
Or like going through the effort of making a mixtape.
Right.
Yeah.
That's real love.
Like, yeah, it is.
if you made
man.
someone a mixtape.
Well, and so many memories. Like, I specifically remember getting like the Beastie Boys License to Ill cassette tape
Oh, yeah.
for the first time. I remember opening. I was
Is that
sitting
93?
on the earlier.
92, 91?
I was. It was actually late 80s.
I think we bumped it in 93. So
Yeah.
maybe we were just late to the game.
Yeah, yeah. They were somewhere in the late 80s because I think I was fourth grade,
Oh, I got you.
and I remember where I was sitting, like just on the outside of my closet, opening that up, putting it in my little tiny boombox that I had, and just sitting there and listening to the whole thing. Where, like, my son probably doesn't remember the first time he streamed a particular song or
Sure.
an album,
Yeah.
So there's just so much connected.
Because like
to
you said, it's
the
not
memory.
tangible.
Right, it's like
you
that
didn't have to go
kinetic
get
experience.
it and
Yeah.
bring it home. It's given to you in your home, and it's over in a second.
Yeah,
And you
Yeah.
move on to the next thing.
like I'll still actually grab CDs from here. Like if I'm driving home,
Oh, yeah.
and I'll think of a couple albums I
Yeah.
want to listen to. I'll grab the CD and
I'm that
listen to
guy
it in
with
my car.
CDs in my car, and I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, I hope no one steals this book of CDs. I'm like, no one's gonna steal my book of CDs. They used to, right?
You're like, they're going to break into my car and take the face off my radio and my book of CDs.
They
Yeah.
would take your whole folder of CDs.
That happened to me.
I'm not even worried now.
My sophomore year or junior of high school, I had the big Case Logic 500.
yeah, Case Logic.
Filled
In your car?
In my car, the whole thing,
Yeah.
all 500 CDs in that
Oh,
thing.
that's emotionally
And
I
it
traumatic.
got
travel a lot
stolen.
for work still sometimes, and I'll pick out my stack of CDs for the road trip.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love it.
it's just there's just something special to it, for sure. And yeah,
I know as our kids have like gotten to driving age, and like a big thing for like our generation when we started driving was making sure that there was like a CD
Yeah.
player. Our kids are like, is there a way to stream music in this car?
Does
Like,
this car have Wi-Fi?
yeah, does this car have like a USB port?
Right.
Like as we're looking for crappy first cars for our kids, they're like, does this car have a USB port? Because that's my most important thing. Like our oldest, like that was his actual most important thing was, does this vehicle have a USB port?
for me back then it was a CD player.
Yeah, that's what I'm
Yeah.
saying. Like
I
for
remember
us,
getting
it
my
was a
first CD player in my
Wow.
car.
My first car was an 82 Corolla hatchback, and it had a cassette player, so I had to do the cassette adapter to
Yes.
the Discman.
Oh
Yeah.
man,
And bring batteries and CDs for the
That's
road
amazing.
trip. It's because your Discman's not going to survive, but you had
Yeah.
to use the cassette adapter.
That's amazing. I had totally forgot that it's like hanging off the front of it from a cord. Yeah,
Yeah, you have a cable running from the cassette
Yeah.
player to your seat,
Yeah.
and you got to have spare batteries.
Which was so
Yeah.
cool at the time.
Oh,
Like, what?
absolutely.
Oh,
I
you
can
were
play
like-
my CD.
you were like next level.
Yeah.
It doesn't get next is flying cars.
Yeah. And then I remember getting my first. You remember the detachable face?
Oh, yeah, so they
CD
won't
player.
steal your stereo.
Yeah. Like when I was 16. When I was 16, I got my
Kenwood?
license. Those were brand new. Because before it was you pull the whole thing out. You know?
Right.
Right.
You're like
They
carrying.
carry like with little hands.
They had like the little handles on them.
Yes.
You go into Carl's Jr. in and out, and you're like
Technology.
putting your stereo on the. But when the detachable face, that was amazing. It's like, what? I could put it in my
Yeah.
pocket.
Well, and that's kind of like what I was talking about with our like micro generation, because I think that we're like the only generation that like really like went through all of those phases.
Yes.
Where I think that my parents like could not have cared less about all of the
Right.
like I think at one point my mom had a detachable face stereo, but our parents were like just old enough that they weren't like needing to stay current
Sure.
on those things. And so yeah, it's such like an interesting dynamic of our generation that we like rode the technological roller
Well, we
coaster.
started on Atari.
Yeah.
And we saw it go Nintendo, Sega, PlayStation. I remember my mom had 8 tracks, and I had some 45s and a little record player.
Yeah.
But then we went cassettes, CDs, streaming. So yeah, we got to see the whole various forms of analog getting better and better and better until it went digital.
Yeah.
And then now it's just crazy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Blu-ray is kind of like the stepchild of that era. It just like never really like
stopped.
streaming like
Streaming
came
took
in
over.
and
Or laser discs. Remember those?
I have a
Yeah.
stack of laser
Yeah.
discs at the shop. Someone gave me laser discs, and there's another one. I'm blanking on what the actual name of it is now, but inside it's not like a disc. It's like a vinyl record. But
Oh,
I can't think of what it's
interesting.
called. But I have both at the shop
Yeah.
in the back. I got to find something to do with them.
Yeah, I felt like laser discs like were out for like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I watched one laser disc in science class like sophomore year.
Yeah.
This presentation was something.
it's just like a little
Giant CD.
blip
Yeah.
on the technological radar.
Yeah. I remember, gosh, I was probably like 4 or 5 years old, and my aunts and uncles were, my parents were super young when I was born, so my aunts and uncles were just a couple years older than me. So they were like teenagers, preteens, and sitting there and watching them play Pong on
Yeah.
the TV
Yeah.
and just being
Frogger.
amazed, like you're like playing a game on
Right.
the TV, which is
Yeah.
just amazing. And then Atari and Nintendo I was at that ripe age. I was like 6th grade probably when Nintendo came out,
Mm-hmm.
and that was like
Yeah, Duck Hunt.
Changed the world.
changed the world. Yeah.
We saved up for Nintendo. Couldn't get any games.
Yeah.
And so it was just going to Blockbuster every Friday for a game.
Oh gosh, I had totally forgotten that.
And try out a different game every
Oh,
weekend,
yeah.
and then back to school Monday and talk about it all week.
Yeah,
Yeah.
my brothers were obsessed with renting video games from VideoWiz.
Yeah.
Canyon Crest.
Yeah, I remember the first time I beat Super Mario Brothers. I was obsessed with that game.
Yeah.
I was at my friend Mario's house, and he had back then the big screen TVs that were giant. You know, like you need 20 people to move.
Right.
And so we're playing it on
3 feet deep.
Yeah.
Playing
it on a big screen TV, and there's like 6 or 7 of us, and I finally beat it, and we're like running around the house screaming, like so excited.
A combination of technology was, if we got far in Mario, Dragon Warrior, Zelda, you get to a new, but my brother's not around, I had to put in a blank tape in the VCR and record my gameplay, and so that when he got home I could show him for sure I got this far.
It's like the 80's version of Picture or It Didn't Happen.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Before you streamed your playing on YouTube or Twitch, you had to pop in a tape and capture that moment.
You were
VCR
literally one
Twitch.
of the first streamers.
Yeah. I only streamed for my brother, but I proved I got that far.
You had an audience of 1.
Yeah. Do you see like kids that come in and play the arcade? Is that kind of opening the world to the older consoles as well, or are they?
Yeah. The vintage stuff comes and goes. We have had a lot of Nintendo and Sega come through the shop, and Atari. And I think my Nintendo console went to an older guy, and then there's that same 9-year-old I mentioned earlier. He's saving up for the Sega Genesis.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
So yeah. Both worlds are into it.
I feel like I need to schedule a time to come meet this 9-year-old.
He's such a funny kid. He's homeschooled. He's full of energy. He researches all this stuff on YouTube, saves his money, and then comes in to make the deal. And
does he like try to haggle with you?
No. But the last thing he picked up was a 1982 Coleco Pac-Man action figure, still sealed on the card.
Oh,
and
wow.
he had to have that thing.
Wow.
So yeah.
That's awesome.
Funny kid.
Did his parents, do you think, first get him into it, or he just?
They definitely encourage him and help him.
Yeah.
He just researches on his own. So we remember kids research, and then everybody comes to the shop.
Yeah.
It's so cool.
It's so important. Like we've tried to do that with our kids, like to whatever they're into to help kind of foster and facilitate that with them.
We definitely encourage them to let their freak flag
fly.
Yeah. And I think shopping for old toys is a pretty harmless hobby for a kid.
For
so
sure.
They definitely encourage
For
them.
sure. You know, one of the things I wish those vinyl idols, like those Ghostbusters ones I have up there, I wish they would have made more of those.
Yeah, it was a short run. They made some good ones with Ghostbusters and Back to the Future.
Yeah.
And then kind of died off.
Yeah.
You
I have
Big
every single
Lebowski.
one that they made. Yeah.
Yeah, we got you a bunch of them for Father's Day one year. I remember.
Yeah. But like for a while I was searching online. I was hoping they were going to make more, and you'll find like sketches that people did. So like they're not real. Like they just drew them or digitally created them.
Well, there was like a rumor out that they were doing the Royal Tenenbaums.
Yeah, that's what I was getting to. This was one of my favorite movies. They had like all the characters from that. But they didn't come out. I wish they would make more of those. They're big. They're a little bit bigger than what I like to collect, but I just love the style.
They got a funny look.
Yeah, they're like kind of cartoonish.
Their faces are.
Yeah, I wish they would have made a Winston, but
they're kind of similar to like Rick and Morty, like
I can see that
vibe.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much for coming in, man. We really appreciate it.
Me.
Obviously, we're going to be customers, and
we could talk about this stuff forever.
Back. Yeah,
it never ends. You always remember something, down to GoBots and Mask and so much more coming out. So keep following, stop in the shop, come check in on us. There's a lot of stuff on the way.
Yeah, and obviously you're downtown Upland, but just for people listening, just kind of tell us exactly where you are.
Sure. In downtown Upland, it's off the 10 freeway and Euclid, and we are at 188 North 2nd Avenue in Unit B, so we're kind of on 2nd and 9th. Makes it hard for UPS to find us, but it's an old 1800s bank. It's been divided up into a few little retail shops, so it's got a cool vibe. We have an old vault in our shop too. It's worth checking out. That's
so
us.
Cool. You're right across from. Is it Penny Lane? Is that the name of the record?
Penny Lane Records.
Place, and then just
Stardust
down from...
Alley, another cool store, and we're all centered around this gazebo right in the middle of town.
Yeah. Rad Coffee, right?
Rad Coffee helped change the whole vibe down there. I've lived in Upland a long time, and it was hair salons and antique stores. And then this punk rock coffee shop came along, and Stardust Alley, and the record shop, and the arcade, and the whole thing's changing.
It's a super cool vibe.
Yeah, it's a cool place to hang out.
You could spend
the
whole afternoon there, like have lunch and hit all the shops. Yeah.
Yeah, for
but
sure.
once you turn on the road you're on, you can't miss it. And you just put up I saw on Instagram He-Man and Skeletor graphics in the window.
The window has a giant Outatime light up license plate, and then a giant He-Man and Skeletor, so you can't miss the shop.
That is awesome.
Yeah. Well, thanks, man. We'll obviously be back. I'll probably be there this weekend. Come check out what you have. But look forward to getting to know you more. And
thanks, man.
We'll
thanks for coming out.
Thanks, guys. This was super fun.
Yeah. Thank you.
Weird.